The death of Superman was a big event back in the 90s, and people from all over were talking about it, including the news. But while a lot of people remember him dying, they also remember that he didn't stay dead for too long, because that was only part 1 of that story event. The remaining 2 parts would soon follow. Part 2 revolving around Superman's funeral, and the final part of the story revolving around new Supermen appearing in Metropolis, as well as the revival of the Man of Steel. Oh, and Coast City gets destroyed, creating a Hal Jordan I prefer over modern-day Hal, but that's beside the point. This final part of the story is known as Reign of the Supermen, and 26 years after this part of the story came out, it finally received a proper adaptation in 2019. And after I gave praise to the Death of Superman film for being both a good adaptation and film, I was excited to see how they would handle this film. So did they do a good job? Well, let's find out. So 6 months after the death of Superman, 4 new people claiming they are Superman begin popping out of the woodwork. A teen version of Superman made up of Superman in Lex Luthor's cells, who the public referred to as Superboy, a Superman who saw Iron Man and Thor too many times, called the Man of Steel, aka John Henry Irons, a Superman with a visor known as the Eradicator, who we later find out is a Kryptonian hologram helping Superman while he is recovering, and a half-man, half-cyborg Superman known as Cyborg Superman / Hank Henshaw, who is actually our main antagonist for this film. Saved / captured by Darkseid, and it's delayed by the anti-life equation so that Darkseid could initiate his plan of revenge against the Justice League for losing in Justice League War. Before the climax, that is, where Hank is like, fuck that noise, and destroys the mother box in his chest that would allow both Darkseid's forces to come through, and me to make a predictable joke about the Snyderverse. Fortunately, we don't live in a fucking dream world. Also, yes, I'm gonna keep using different pronunciations for Darkseid because I don't know what's the proper way to pronounce it, and I'd rather cover my bases than spend time looking up the proper pronunciation of a fictional character who's barely in this movie to begin with. But, yeah, that's the story, and to be honest, I liked it for the most part. It's paced pretty well, the story itself is pretty interesting, and while I did have my issue with Darkseid being shoved to the side, it was a nice twist and was also built up pretty decently in this film. Hell, I kinda liked him being responsible for Doomsday showing up, as well as the plan to use the drones and Hank as means to invade, portraying him as more of a chess master, which I like because it really does fit his character well. Certainly a lot more than War did, where he was just a force of nature. Another thing I liked in this was during the climax, where both the main and supporting characters came together to deal with the big bad / problem. We get Lois confronting the main antagonist, and then later Superman joins her in that. We get Lex, Steel, and Superboy dealing with drones getting the leak back from another dimension they got trapped in earlier in the film. Even characters like Bibba help out in the climax against the drones to help save the day, and that is something I can genuinely appreciate. Another thing I liked is that, like the last film, it has its quieter / lighthearted moments that it's not always serious. As such, it helps make the serious moments all the more serious and effective. I know it sounds like basic stuff, but I have to stress how much I appreciate this in an adaptation of the Death of Superman storyline, because the previous animated adaptation before this duology, Superman Doomsday, screwed this up so hard by focusing on only serious shit / melodrama and cramming the X together into one film. So while it may be basic, it's stuff I really appreciate in the film adapting this storyline, so yeah, I'm gonna praise it for that. That being said, there are some things I'm not a fan of when it comes to the story. See, because there are 4 main Supermen, that means they're each going to get focus, which on the surface is absolutely fine, especially if it makes them more interesting, but the problem is, it's not an equal amount of focus. Superboy and Cyborg Superman get a large chunk of focus when it comes to these 4, leaving Eradicator and Steel with the least amount of focus / development. As such, they become not as interesting in comparison. Eradicator is basically a hologram who does nice things and deals with threats while Superman recovers, and that's it. And Steel / Henry Irons is a guy inspired by Superman to do stuff, is an expert with tech who also helps Lois, and that's about it. Compared to Superboy's arc about being the new Superman, discovering he's cloned from Lex, and then being his own person not associated with Lex, and if you discount Cyborg Superman because he's the main antagonist, that's still 1 out of 3 characters who are more interesting / given more focus with when compared to the other 2. And that's problematic to me because these 2 could have been made more interesting if given more time and focus. Another issue, and this is a minor one, is that I have an issue with the Justice League not really doing a lot here. Compared to part 1 where they fought Doomsday for a bit, this group deal with parademons, aka small fries, for a bit, and then whoosh, another dimension for most of the movie until the climax. It feels like they weren't needed here personally. I don't know, just me. Also, referencing tweets and clickbait movie, very dated of you. God, you don't see the source material doing that. Isn't that right, President Clinton? Speaking of politics in this movie, 0 out of 10, worst movie ever. This movie's pushing an anti-Trump campaign. The punchline is that I didn't like either candidate in that election. But despite that, those are my thoughts on the story, so let's move on. Character-wise, it's really good. I like Lois's chemistry with characters like Wonder Woman and the other Superman. Lex Luthor's handled pretty well and does a lot more than I originally thought he would in this part, which is nice to see. I already gave my thoughts on the four Superman, so I won't repeat it here. And the side characters outside of their contributions in the climax are either okay or not needed like the Justice League. But when it comes to the character element in general, it's handled pretty well in terms of chemistry, writing, and development. It's not as great as the first part, admittedly, but it's still good nonetheless. Speaking of the last film, the animation in the film is about the same as before. Animated fluently, I like the character models and colors / backgrounds, and the effects are also handled pretty well. So if you liked or didn't like the animation / art style of the previous film, your opinion's not going to really change much when it comes to this one. Audio-wise, not much I can comment on. The soundtrack serves its purpose in terms of fitting with the scenes it's used in, but listening to it on its own, it doesn't really impress me or make me want to listen to it again. It serves its purpose when it comes to fitting in with the scenes, and that's about it. Nothing memorable or catchy, it just fits. Voice-wise, not much has changed when it comes to my thoughts on the voices that came back for this one. They still turn in a good performance, and the new ones are also good, so not much to comment on there. But yeah, let's wrap this up. Overall, Reign of the Superman, like the previous film in this duology, is the best adaptation of the Death of Superman storyline, and I highly recommend it if you're a fan of this storyline. So yeah, I found another good Superman movie. It may not be live action, but I don't really give a shit about it being animated or live action as long as it's good. I'd make a joke about the Dumbo remake, but A, you'd probably see it coming, and B, I couldn't come up with anything funny. But before I go reflect on that, thank you all for watching. Special thanks go out to my Patreon supporters, Susan the Car Fan and Emerald Star Productions, and have a great day, everyone.